Welcome to another edition of The Voice of Viet Vegas. Meet the candidate. Today, I have the privilege to have a conversations with a candidate for Assembly District 7, Las Vegas. He is an athlete who used to compete in wrestling, powerlifting, and track and field. He is a graduate of the West Point Leadership Program and is a retired police officer. Please welcome Mr. Tony Palmer. Tony, could you please say hi to the audience?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Tuan, for having me here, and I'm just glad to be a guest on your show.
Thank you so much for taking the time to visit me today. Can you tell the audience where is the Assembly District 7, where does it start and where does it end it? And what makes you running for office?
Okay, well, Assembly District 7, which is where I'm running for, it's a little bit in Las Vegas, which is the city that I live in, and a lot of North Las Vegas. It's pretty much a large rectangle. It includes North Las Vegas Airport, and when you go north of North Las Vegas up to Cheyenne, it goes from Cheyenne to Craig, which is about 2 miles north to south, and then it goes from Rancho to North Lamb, which is about 8 miles. So it's kind of sort of like a big rectangle. The reason why I'm running, I moved out to Las Vegas from Virginia Beach, Virginia 5 years ago. I love the city. It's beautiful, wonderful people, a really nice West Coast disposition of the people. Taxes, very, very low compared with both Virginia and New York City, where I originally grew up in. But then things started to change in the last 5 years. For whatever reason, taxes are starting to increase. The legislature is starting to pass laws that work against the citizens instead of for the citizens, and our school system is a disaster. So I decided to run for the legislature to try to make positive changes for everybody in Nevada, try to keep taxes low, try to have a wonderful quality of life for both the citizens and their children.
One of the platform, when I look at your website, and it looks very interesting to me. Let's talk about one of the stand on your platform. If elected, you would vote against the mileage tax. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes, I can. First of all, I signed what's called the Taxpayer Pledge. In other words, I would never vote to raise any type of taxes on any of the citizens in Nevada. I believe that the state is going to look to incorporate, not in this legislative session, the special session, but come 2021, 4 new taxes. One is going to be an increased property tax. 2 is going to be increased sales tax. 3, they're looking to possibly change our constitution and actually incorporate a state income tax. And then number 4 would be the mileage tax on cars. Right now, when I register my car, it costs approximately $550 a year. Of that, only about $50 or $60 is actual registration fees. The rest are additional taxes. My opinion is they're going to try to put a mileage tax on every person's vehicle, be it electric or gas or hybrid, that would raise our taxes on this vehicle probably upwards of $100 a year. Again, I believe that there's no need for this. There's too many pork projects in the state that could be cut off. These are just for special interest groups that the legislators apparently are funding out of the citizens' tax money. There's no need to have any type of increased taxes or mileage tax put on vehicles.
Right. My understanding when I look at the bill, and it say that it is more equitable because that under the current system, we tax for the transportations is on the fuel itself, and the hybrids and the electric vehicles, they are not using any fuel at all. So that's the reason why they're proposing to get the mileage tax. But I agree with you, though, going to be a tax, regardless of how you call it. So I do agree with you on that. But let's move on to the next items, which is I think that in your platform, and education is one of the problem that we have here in Nevada for a long, long time. Education Saving Account Program, or what we call ESA, is an account established to provide state funds to pay for approved education expenses for qualified students. The program primarily purpose is to provide option for parents to freely choose how and where to educate their children with a grant from the state. Why it is so vital for you and the student, the state of Nevada?
Well, ESAs, I believe that is one of my voting platforms. They were established 2 years ago by the legislature. Unfortunately, they were never funded. And I believe that the legislature this next session, if it's still controlled by Democrats, are actually going to look to remove ESAs. Education savings accounts are a very critically important thing for the parents to determine what type of education that the children are going to get. These savings accounts, along with school choice, allow the parents to decide where the school is that the child's going to be getting their education, what type of education they're going to get, and if they would like to change the school that the child gets. It also includes redirecting the money from the school to the parent if the parent should maybe want to homeschool or hire special teachers either in-house or maybe by internet. The parents could choose whatever type of education they want for their children. As you know, Nevada, we're ranked anywhere between 41st and 51st in the state in education, which is pretty bad. If you take a look at the Democratic platform, every single one will have on their website education, 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 helping our children. The last 10 years, they've done nothing at all to help the children. When Republicans such as myself would look to have ESAs in school choice, they strike it down, the Democrats, and they don't fund it. And all they do is talk about how they have to better education, and instead of our schools getting better, they're actually getting worse. So that's why we have to fund these ESAs, education savings accounts, and to have school choice.
Yeah, since we are on the subject of educations, the CCSD Board of Trustees is having a special meeting today, and possibly they will vote to terminate the school superintendent, Dr. Jesus Jara. What is your stand on this issue?
Well, I believe that the Mr. Jarrett is doing a good job, the best that he can. He's working with whatever tools that they give him, and he is working to actually make our schools progressively better. Unfortunately, the schools aren't run by the head of the school district. They're run by the teacher unions and by the governor. And instead of having a rubber stamp for what the teacher unions want and for what the governor wants, Mr. Jarrett is in opposition to some of the things they want to try to improve the education for the children. And what are they doing? Since there's such opposition, they're trying to say that he's not doing a good job, and they want to kick him out and replace him with somebody that will be a rubber stamp for both the teachers union and for the governor.
Yeah, on the same subjects, I think that the charter school is doing very well in Nevada. And to me, I always advocating for school choice. So, and one other thing that was actually upset a lot of parents is that when they approve the marijuana sales tax, it's supposed to go to the educations, not a penny that go to that fund at all, but it rather it go to the general funds. But so, do you have any idea about that?
Yes, it's called redirecting the funds. The marijuana money that's supposed to go in to help improve education, which would actually go towards the children and the schools as opposed to the teachers union. It gets put into the general fund because it's not doing anything for them in their plan. They redirect that money and they try to justify the reasoning for it. So that's the only thing they're doing. They're not putting that money where it really counts to help the education of the children. It gets redirected to whatever special interest that the governor would like to send it to.
Right, let's move on to another subject, which is the economy. Nevada is relying heavily on tax revenue from the casino industry. Do you have a plan to diversify the economy in the state? And what would you do to bring other industry coming to Nevada?
Yes, I do. Nevada, as you know, it relies heavily on the entertainment industry. Entertainment is everything from conventions, casinos, sporting events, and that brings in billions of dollars a year. But unfortunately, when you have something like COVID happen and you have to socially distance, you can't have large groups and meetings for people, a lot of people wind up getting unemployed. What we need to do is we need to promote new businesses in Nevada, brick and mortar businesses, mom and pop businesses that will actually give stable employment to people. What I propose is two things. First of all, if any new business opens up in the state, there would be a 1-year moratorium on state taxes towards that business so they could get some good roots and make an established business, and that'll help employ people with steady, regular jobs. The second thing is, if any new manufacturing business should open up in Nevada, I would propose a 2-year moratorium on any type of state taxes. That would, again, let that manufacturing business get a good foothold in Nevada, employ a lot of people with steady jobs that wouldn't disappear due to something like COVID. If you take a look at Amazon, Amazon just recently opened up in Henderson, and they're going to be employing 1,000 people. We need manufacturing businesses, strong businesses like this spread out through Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, all through Clark County, and the rest of the state included, that will have these steady jobs that people could actually base their lives on and not have to worry if there's an incident like COVID where they're going to be put out of work.
Tesla came to the state a couple of years ago, and I think that they wanted to expand it again. And when they come to Vegas, I don't think that anyone greeted them the way that they to welcome them to come to the southern state. So basically, that one of the idea that we should open up manufacturing and even other type of industry to subsidize the loss of income in the gaming industry. So yeah, that is one of the things. But since we are on the subject, on July 6th of this month, Governor Steve Sisolak announced that the total estimate general fund shortfall of approximately 1.2 billion in fiscal year 2021. In your opinions, what caused this shortfall and how the current administration should handle this? Should we furlough state employee in the fiscal year, during this fiscal year, and holding open more than 690 state employees vacancies, or transfer from other funds to the state general fund and reverse the tax amnesty program, or what? What should we do?
Okay, well, obviously this is unprecedented nationally, much less in Nevada, with what COVID has done to economies in each individual state. So there is a lot of hard choices, but again, what we could do is severalfold, which the state assembly did some of that. First of all, they cut out a lot of poor projects. When you look at human services with the state, they've increased that 330% from the last budget cycle, going from, I want to say, 900 million to 1.3 billion dollars. They increased it, and that was just a bunch of pork projects, needless, that had to be put in the state. So get rid of those things. Let's bring it back to what the 2017 to 19 budget was, and that would reduce us several billion dollars in the state budget. Second of all, I would put a hiring freeze for this next cycle due to COVID with most of state employees, not everyone. Obviously, we need more people that are going to be in places like Dieter in the employment industry, or I should say unemployment industry. Uh, Several of those you don't need to cut back on, but yes, we can cut back on a lot of future hirings, at least for 1 year till the budget reopens with the state with COVID.
Right. So let's move on to hopefully that this is something that we all be aware of. Education again is one of the things that it's very dear to you. I don't know that if you're aware of this issue though, but basically that kids in our school will need consent from parents on practically everything, whether to go to school field trip, able to have a minor medical treatment if an accident happened during the school time, so on and so on and so forth. However, they do not need consent from parents to have an abortion, even at a young age as 14 or even younger. As a Catholic, what is your opinions on this issue?
Okay, first of all, my opinion on abortion is I'm totally against it. Okay, but when it comes down to parental consent for children, it should be required right up until the age of 18. Included in that, in reference to the abortion issue, I would also propose what's called a heartbeat bill. A heartbeat bill they have in several states, and it's still moving along, where basically if a woman is pregnant between 6 to 8 weeks and a heartbeat is detected on the fetus, she cannot have an abortion. So two things, I would require parental consent for any child under the age of 18, and number two, I would have that heartbeat bill.
Well, thank you so much. Before we ended this discussion today, do you have any message to the voters out there, and why should they consider to vote for you?
Well, the state has been in a free fall the last few years. The Democrats have done a lot of the running in the state. We have to turn this state around and make it a good quality place for people to live that they could afford. My Democrat competitor, he seems like a very nice fellow. Basically, I decided to run for state legislature because I found in the last 5 years, the quality of life for Nevadans has severely diminished. Education has gotten worse. Taxes are looking at being raised. There's just too much things going on with the state that the Democrats who have taken a foothold in have started to change, in my opinion, for the worse. If you take a look at my Democratic opponent, he appears to be a very nice fellow. He doesn't have any real life experience. He hasn't done the manual labor jobs like I have. I've done the manual labor jobs for about 12 years prior to becoming a police officer. I worked in community policing on the street, knowing what people need. I've been very active in politics for about the last 10 years, testified in front of the state legislature a few times. And I believe that I know what the citizens of Nevada need to help make this a better quality state, and I will support those needs and try to make this a better place for everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tony Palmer. To the voter in our community, please consider Mr. Palmer in these coming elections. Please visit his website and Facebook page, which is listed on this screen. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony Palmer, for your time. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Tuan. And remember, don't vote against yourself. Vote for Tony Palmer.
Thank you so much. And as I said, best of luck to you. We will see you the next time. Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody.